All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's Views from the Field, which is Kansas Rural Center's monthly check-in on things happening around food and farming in Kansas. This month, we are going to be talking about a new project for the Kansas Rural Center, where we are going to be partnering with the KC Food Hub to lead a Kansas Food Hub working group. Um, just to as a little bit of background for why we're doing that, and maybe a little bit about food hubs before I hand it over to Thomas Smith from the KC Food Hub to talk about what they're up to. Last week, I was able to attend the grand opening, the ribbon cutting of the Barb Depew Minimal Processing Center with the KC Food Hub and Representative Emmanuel Cleaver. That was a really proud moment for me personally. The KC Food Hub is making amazing strides in organizing farmers to meet the needs for local food, and especially that minimal processing center, which is focused on serving farm to school. I think is really an amazing model for what can be done when farmers work together and serve the local markets. So I guess a little bit what the Rural Center is hoping to do by convening this food hub working group and why we're working in this space a little bit. So let's see, what was it? Probably 14 years ago, I was involved in a feasibility study to start a food hub in Northeast Kansas. Through that feasibility study, I got connected with a number of other individuals, and we organized what is now the KC Food Hub, which is a farmer-owned, farmer-led cooperative. Um, that effort, was led by farmers, but throughout that, it was very apparent to me as one of those farmers, the role that supporting organizations played in sort of supporting that growth and, providing resources, advice, funding sometimes. And I think for the KC Food Hub, that role has really been most exemplified by West Central Community Action Agency in Missouri and now New Growth. And thinking about that in the Kansas context, I was trying to, several years ago, we were thinking about what can the Rural Center do, and we decided there's a need for that kind of support across the state of Kansas. So we started a project in central Kansas to try and support food hub development in that region. That was supported through a local food promotion program grant that we actually just wrapped up and submitted our final report on. Um, we weren't able to establish a farmer-led food hub in that region, although we supported a number of farmers getting access to new markets and supported the expansion of Common Ground Producers and Growers, which is a nonprofit farmer food hub that services a variety of audiences, but primarily senior citizens and others who receive SNAP. So we were thinking about that and then thinking about the barriers that existed around the state and the opportunities that exist. So food hubs are wonderful for farmers to work together, and one place that they really can be super beneficial is in accessing institutional markets. So like I mentioned, for the KC Food Hub opening the Minimal Processing Center for Farm to School, that is certainly one opportunity that is well served by groups of farmers working together. It's a little more difficult for a bunch of individual farmers to work with a district. Um, but there's other opportunities out there. So those could be hospitals in communities. There's a growing interest and development of food as medicine programs around Kansas, and we'll see over the next 5 years a number of programs supported through the Rural Health Transformation Program. So there's a lot of opportunities for food hubs across the state. There's also a lot of interest. So I've fielded calls from a number of people who are in the process of starting food hubs. And that's kind of a long and daunting process. And there's this sort of chicken and egg problem. Farmers don't want to commit their products to a food hub until that food hub has markets to sell the products, and markets don't want to buy from a food hub until there's an adequate supply of products going into it. So building that out is something that really requires support, requires time and dedication. And so we're lucky here at the Rural Center to have received some funding through the Patterson Family Foundation to support our work, doing some what we call value chain coordination around Kansas. So really connecting farmers to markets. And we are partnering with the KC Food Hub to do that value chain coordination. And so Thomas is going to talk in a minute about the food hub and the work we're kind of doing with them under the name of a constellation, trying to grow a constellation of food hubs across the state of Kansas. And then for those of you who have registered for this meeting, I'm going to send a link in the chat here at the end for an email address, and you can get signed up to be a part of this food hub working group. So what I'm envisioning with that is that we're going to work together through monthly meetings, likely, maybe more, depending on how things go, maybe more frequently. And we're going to identify the leaders who are working on developing food hubs across the state, and we're going to connect them with the resources needed to advance those projects. And then all of those folks who are working together can collaborate and share connections with the goal of a strong, interconnected local and regional food system across the state of Kansas in the future, led through these local food hubs. So I know there's a lot of interest across the state. We're hoping to focus that interest and really make some progress. And the key organization helping us is the organization with lots of experience being a food hub. So that's the KC Food Hub. And without sort of any further ado here, I'm going to pass it over to Thomas Smith, and he's going to talk a little bit about what they do and ideas for how we can build out this constellation of food hubs across Kansas.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. I think Tom is underplaying his role in the creation of the Food Hub. Not only was he serving on that feasibility study and such, but he served a very long time on our board and was instrumental into the growth that we've been able to get to here. And where you find that so much in the food system of people just continuing to do this incredible work, year in year out, and continue to grow year in year out. And I think we're hopeful to, cultivate those connections with this constellation project, and hopefully bring a lot of necessary resources to rapidly develop these types of relationships. But again, I'm Thomas Smith. I'm the Chief Business Officer with the Kansas City Food Hub. From the attendee list, it looks like I've met most of you folks. So I'll get right into it. The Kansas City Food Hub is what we're calling cultivating a farmer-led food system here in Kansas City. And so we do that by primarily aggregating, marketing, and distributing for our 42 family farms across the greater metro region. We're hopeful to get that number even further increased this season. And, just like Tom was saying earlier, there's a real demand and real interest and real energy and passion to make local food work. Farmers want to be growing healthy local food. And eaters, community members, whatever we want to call them, want to be supporting their local farms and eating healthy, nutritious food. And so it's really just, it's not a demand problem. It's a logistics problem. And we've been able to, in the last 10 years, where Kansas City Food Hub is celebrating our 10 years in operation this May. And we've really been able to learn how to solve that logistics problem of connecting the farmer to the eater through some, robust but hopefully simple methods here in Kansas City that we hope to spread across Kansas and Missouri. But some of those processes basically are, like I said, making the whole community fresh. Too often, not only are community members unable to access that local food, but think it's out of reach. We oftentimes think of local food as only something for, high-end restaurants, farmers markets and all of that, and not for our food pantries, not for our schools, not for our hospitals. Most interestingly enough, we just got some videos of it. Watch out on our social media for the next coming weeks to see those videos and images. Even the aquarium locally in Kansas City is buying their lettuce because they care about the nutrient density for their sea turtles. And so they want to make sure that the health and well-being of the sea turtles is high quality and to their standards. And so they switched over to local lettuce. We're seeing the same conversations happening with our schools, that they care just as equally about their school children. And so if it's simple for an aquarium, it's simple for a school, it's simple for, hopefully anyone and everyone to buy local through our processes. So that process is essentially, like I said, marketing, aggregating, and distributing on behalf of the farmer to really figure out how to break down those bottlenecks and simplify that kind of logistical procedure. And so we do that by having our farmers post weekly with us their availability. So the farmer will say that they have 100 pounds of potatoes, 100 pounds of tomatoes, and 100 pounds of green onions or scallions. And we will then take that all from our software and be able to manage effectively all of these other producers, because just as much as maybe Tom here from Bowler Family Farms might be trying to post, green onions he has available for sale, Liz Grasnek over in Jamestown, Missouri, might also have green onions for sale at different price points, at different volumes, at different packaging, different everything. And, we want to make it easy for the farmer to be able to farm how they know they can farm in their area and be respectful of that. But also, we need to be able to effectively manage all of that so that a client, like a school, knows what they're ordering and knows how much they need. And so we have a really great software called Local Food Marketplace, and we're expanding that out. I think I've mentioned to most of the people on this call to a tech stack of two other software solutions, making it 3 in total, to really meet the needs as effectively as possible for what you can see is the next point is the clients, and making sure that our clients can, just as much as we're working for the farmer, we're working for the clients to make it easy and effective for them to be able to order local food. And so by using software solutions to aggregate all of that, instead of, what we see too often is that a school like Wichita Public has 50,000 students, or, potentially probably 20,000, 30,000 eating lunch every day. And so for that amount, they need a lot of different farmers, and they need to know exactly when that's coming, when that's being, what pack size that is, how many farmers it's coming from, all of that. And for a school to be able to manage that, that's a hefty order. And so that's kind of what we do, of making it easy, that so much so that it's just in our little diagram here, a little red line between the farm to the client managing. And then we have the farmers harvest to order. So we are zero waste. Instead of having it be, much like a broadliner where we might order pallets and pallets of something from a farm and not actually necessarily know a client is ordering it. And so then that a lot of that food goes to waste or needs to be worked into redirection efforts or something. We're trying to maximize our capacity, minimize our costs as much as possible. And so we do it inverse. So instead of buying all of the food and then having the clients order it, we have the clients order it and then we get the food from the farm. So that makes it, very low environmental costs, but also very low capital costs, so that we can stay nimble and agile and be as effective as possible. So we have the farmers harvest to order, and then we have the farmers all bring all of their orders to one central warehouse in Kansas City as of this current moment, Kansas City, Missouri. And then that farm can be bringing a truckload of orders that is for 30, 40 different clients, making it worthwhile for them to come into the city and have just one simple stop to us. And for smaller farmers, like market farmers, oftentimes they can go to a farmer's market in town on a Saturday and have half their load be for the farmer's market and half the load for our drop off to the food hub. And so we're trying to really make it as easy as possible and financially feasible as possible for the farmers to deliver and have it all in one place. And so they just drop off, and then using a very simple lot code system that tracks not only food safety information, additional information, most importantly for the lot numbers for different clients, we can then organize that and effectively cross dock that essentially to make it so that just as much as one farmer is delivering to potentially 30, 40 different clients, one client can be ordering from dozens of different farms. So we organize that all in our warehouse, and then we put it on the road and deliver it to clients. In the last 3 years, this process we've really been able to streamline that, make it our deliveries far more simple, make it so that we have less and less error rate, less and less cost. And we've seen a 291% increase in our annual sales revenue for over the last 3 years. And so what's important to note is that unlike most businesses, when we're talking about a 291% increase, that's not just a benefit to the business. Because we're a farmer co-op, we're letting the farmers set their own price. We sometimes give them recommendations for price points and have to sometimes people to work on behalf of them to negotiate a price with clients. But oftentimes the farmer is setting their own price, period. And we're then tacking a small margin on, but that means that about on average, 80% of all sales revenue is going directly back to the farmer, because that's our marginal rate that we're adding on, that 20-ish%. And so 291% increase for the Food Hub, making the Food Hub a stronger organization, making sure that we can continue lasting and that we're having a greater effect on our community. But more importantly, that is money in the pocket for our farmers and building better market channels for our farmers across the region. And most importantly, going back to the organizational strength, we have reached parity. While we've been increasing our revenue, we've been decreasing our costs, and able to make it so that though in the beginning of the history of our Food Hub, we've been very reliant on grant revenue. But in this past year of 2025, we've been able to reach it so that 50% of our operations are covered wholly by the profit gained from earned revenue. And that is specifically sales revenue, and then 50% by grant revenue. That is an upward trajectory of, in that same 3-year time period, from about, I believe, 12% to 50%. And so not only have we been focused on streamlining our operations, increasing that value for our community and for our farmers, but making sure the organizational strength of the Food Hub is stronger than ever. And with that, we've been able to access a lot of those different communities more than ever. So category breakdown of our market segments for the last year were 53% food access partnerships, 29% schools, 15% food service, and 3% grocery. Now, some of these numbers will be fluctuating for this year due to a few different grant outcomes at the national level, but too oftentimes we think that getting local nutrient-dense food to a food pantry, to a food access partnership, to anything like that is oftentimes deemed as almost impossible. But not only have we been able to succeed in that, but we've been able to make it a more profitable enterprise for not only ourselves, as seen from the parity, but also profitable for our farmers, so that they can not just be growing food for farmers markets that have people who have more in their life that they can afford to come out on a Saturday morning and buy produce, but for people who are really struggling in their life to have better food, not just be eating mac and cheese, and actually having produce available to them. And so we're really happy that we've been able to keep that community focus of not just streamlining our operations. I think too often we hear in the corporate world right now that when people are trying to make their businesses more profitable, they try to take a step back from community, and focus on larger clients, focus on corporate relationships, focus on things that are more innately profitable off the top of the head. We like to take a step into community and actually show that this is a feasible project and that we want to feed our communities and our farmers want to feed our communities. And that's because we are a cooperative association, that I'm not answering to traditional shareholders and I'm not answering to traditional board of directors for a nonprofit. I'm answering to a co-op board of farmers who have seen in their whole lives what rural communities look like, what the state of food, the state of our food system is across Kansas and Missouri, and want to take a step in the right direction and improve our food system. And so they have tasked me, and we've been able to do it, of getting food into the right places, of food pantries, of schools, of still restaurants and grocery stores, but community-centered projects. And like community-centered projects, we have some wonderful stories to tell about that. Of just this past year, we were able to, and I'm sure many of you have already seen these photos, but we were able to make it work for all 11 Head Start locations of the southwest area of Missouri, to be able to purchase local apples grown in Kansas, right on the Mocan border, to be purchased by the Head Starts, and then given out in a wonderful, fun day of activities last fall, of getting the kids energized about whole apples, about farming, about local food, and a memorable experience for them. And this is what the Food Hub is all about. That if this Head Start wanted to buy local food, they didn't know where to go. They could not have done this event. They could not have made this remarkable moment for these kids to always remember about apples, about local food, about healthy, nutritious food, without Food Hubs being present to make it so that they could get the local food they needed for this event. And we find this too often, that, again, like I was saying earlier, that the demand is present, but the access is not there. And so we have figured out exactly how to make it logistically possible to deliver to rural Head Start locations, so that we're still making money, but we're not charging an arm and a leg for the apple and not undervaluing the farmer. So it's a real win-win-win here. And this was due to some complex logistics of making sure that while we were delivering to these Head Starts, that because I'm not a farmer, because I'm in the office planning out these things, instead of just having to be doing a million different things, we were able to make it so that a large pantry order was happening at the same time, so that we had a full truck going down, not just the apples for the Head Start, but even a larger effect on the community at large. And this is rural Missouri, showing how we can make local food work in the rural areas, even though we're based in the city. But we're not just taking a look at the rural areas. We're also taking a look in Kansas City, Missouri, specifically. And as many of you know, when SNAP was paused this past fall, past November, there was a huge concern for what food access could look like, because so many people would lose that benefit during the pause. So we were contacted by Kansas City Tenants Union, and we're able to, in just 6 days, put together a robust program that ended up delivering every Sunday to 500 different families boxes of local produce, kind of like a CSA, if folks are familiar with that, of local produce and a few shelf-stable goods, using the infrastructure we had laid down from our other box programs that are paid from generous foundations and government grants. But the most important bit about this is that the community came together, saw the need for local food to be given to the people most in need during this time of, during November, the time of Thanksgiving, the time of harvest, the time of, what we think of as food. And we were able to raise $50,000 of small singular donations to run this whole program, instead of relying on large grant contributions or anything, because we had the infrastructure available, and we had the ability to make it affordable and easy for a tenant union who had never done food access work before, to be able to effectively feed their own community to unionized apartments across the metro. So we were delivering to 8 different apartment buildings every Sunday, free of charge boxes to everyone who signed up. And you can see these. These are big boxes, heavy boxes full of produce, meat, dairy, eggs, and some shelf-stable goods in such a time of crisis. And we had so many people sharing with us details about how, you know, how it really changed their day, that they were so worried about everything going on, especially with the whether your political opinion is right or left. It is a tumultuous time, to say the least, especially this past November. And it was great for these people to be able to enjoy local healthy food at this time, and be able to turn to a local co-op and turn to their union to make it work. And we had people saying that, you know, it was the best apple they'd ever eaten for the boxes. It was the best whatever that they had eaten in such a time of need. And so that's kind of what we're able to do here in Kansas City. We've been able to really perfect the model as much as one can in the last few years. And we see the possibility and opportunity to expand this type of work across all of Kansas. And that's why we're really happy to be partnering with the Kansas Rural Center to be doing this work across Missouri. We also are partnered, like Tom said, with the West Central Action Agency as well as New Growth to be doing a similar project in Missouri. And we hope that these two projects can connect and intertwine to make a very robust local food system for both states. All of the work I'm talking about right now, that I will talk about, we've already started establishing a new food hub partner in Columbia, Missouri, and we're actively working on finalizing the funding available to do one in East St. Louis, so St. Louis, but Illinois. And so with that, we really hope that Missouri and Kansas can connect their farms, and hopefully even a broader Midwest project maybe years down the line. And so what we've been able to see is that, just like Tom was so succinctly saying, there is a lot of demand for local food across the state of Kansas. And so the problem is that, sorry for the animations on my slide, a majority of our fruits and vegetables are imported. And that's happening more and more every passing year, that a majority of our fruits are fully imported, and it depends on the region you're in. The vegetables are imported too. We are no longer domestically producing those fruits and vegetables. We're importing them and instead growing commodity crops that are then usually used for export or animal feed. And so there's a real problem with being able to have that access to even domestic product. And because of that access issue, the Rockefeller Foundation has found that we spend an additional $3 for every $1 we spend on food. We spend $3 in external costs, such as healthcare, such as environmental costs, and a myriad of other things that continue to push the problem down the line. And instead of having the cost immediately available to our consumers and to voters, but instead are extrapolated out over the period of time. And because of this, race to the bottom for food, and race to import, and like many other industries, take it offshores for our farming. 80% of our farms have gone out of business in the last 50 years. And our commodity market is failing. As many of you know, we had to bail out our commodity market by about $42 billion this past year due to trade war issues, as well as a few different other issues. And so our food system paints a really poor picture for our food system of being able to not produce enough anymore, that we're We're reliant on these global supply chains that we see constantly, whether it be right now or whether it be during COVID or whether it be during the next crisis, that it is increasingly difficult to get healthy local food or healthy food at all to the communities in need more and more. And so we must ask, why is that the case? Why have we not been able to actually meet the market where it's at and actually provide alternatives for these, seemingly incredibly inefficient, costly systems of the that bring us our food currently? And that's because we don't have this distribution. We have at year over year de-invested in our food service, whether it be private or public. Our cafeterias are more and more heat and serve that are reliant on not whole food, not whole apples to feed our children, but Pop-Tarts, but consumer packaged goods. And that is because we have decided to underfund these facilities. We've decided that food, healthy food, is not a priority anymore. And because of that, we've created systems that rely on inefficiency, rely on this, like I just said, hidden $3 cost to every dollar spent on international markets that fail constantly. And so to improve this food system, we must meet the market where it's at and actually build systems that can hopefully replicate the convenience that we see from these larger systems of a broadliner, but still platform and empower our family farmers and local food systems. And that can be done using 21st century technology. We need to, the reason why it's so difficult for the Wichita Public Schools to buy local food is because they need to know that all of their food is coming in at a certain time, at certain standards, at certain price points, and all of these little details that add up. And they don't have the additional staff to interact with the amount of farmers it would take to feed their district. And so they need to go to the easy option. And it's the option that's going to keep them feeding the kids, keep them doing the work that they're there for. And that option is working with a Sysco, working with a Liberty Fruit, working with a broadliner food provider who makes it easy for them to buy. And so that's what we're setting out to be. And like I was saying, for Wichita, we're bringing this work across the state that we've seen the success, like I think I've illustrated earlier in my presentation, of working with schools, of working with food pantries, working with institutional clients to make buying local food easy. And we've been able to really make that distribution model a solution to the distribution problem. And we are actively working along with the hope for this formation committee to have the formation committee understand where we need to go and then bringing our resources across the state to rapidly develop food hubs similar to us to do the same work. Because as we all know, there's not too many wholesale focused food hubs that are doing the work we're doing in Kansas City, making it easy for local schools, hospitals, all the like to buy local product. And so with that, because there's not many people doing it, because there's a lot of demand, we want to create an intentional network underneath this formation committee to actually have longstanding ties between food hubs and not just have it be that we're working on a grant with the Rural Center to evaluate and help build a short-term project. We are trying to create a long-term intentional network that will last far longer than hopefully any one individual because there's so much demand and so much possibility. And so, oh, give me one second. So with that, that's the kind of the constellation in the nutshell that we're hoping to essentially identify communities with partnership from this formation committee and needs within the state of Kansas, and then bring our resources, with that being uh, our operational know-how, our sales know-how, but also our additional supply from the MOCAN region to build really quick food hubs across the state that can then work together to meet the needs of not only their community, but the entire state as a whole, under kind of a connected constellation. And so the real hope is that we're um, like our state motto says, we're looking to the stars and seeing what can work, and we want to build just brightly shining food hubs that can act independently, that are wonderfully powerful organizations in their own right, but connect them in a beautiful picture across the state of Kansas, that can service the needs and actually have working connections. And so, because there's no food hubs across the state of Kansas, we have this opportunity to make them all very similarly minded, similar operations, and similar, just general organizational know-how and everything, so that they can be intentionally connected. And the last point on that is that additionally, we see that if we want every Kansas kid to be able to eat a Kansas apple, a Kansas carrot, a Kansas bell pepper at their school lunch, and have the same in their hospitals, have the same in their, um, you know, um, uh, grocery stores and all, and have it actually be, instead of have it be a holistic food as medicine version, and not just have you know singular one-off activities and programs, but having it be that local food, healthy food, nutrient dense food is all around you. Then we need to develop a lot more farming capacity. So we've piloted recently converting some commodity crop growers, a corn and soybean farmers, sorry, to do strawberry production for our public schools in Kansas City, Missouri. And I don't know if I said earlier in the category breakdown, but we're currently servicing in the greater metro region about 43 school districts, and then we have two additional school districts that are part of our constellation work. So in total, we'll be servicing 45 school districts, and to feed them strawberries, you need 2 acres of strawberry production. You can't just do it simply with one field, 2 fields everywhere, if we want to do it fast and do it this year. And so we believe that in addition to building food hubs across the state of Kansas and Missouri, that we will be hopefully kind of creating opportunities to get rapid development of specialty crop production across Kansas and Missouri by making it easy not only for current farmers, but hopefully future farmers, whether those be traditional commodity crop folks, to convert acres over to specialty crop, but also to future organic smallholder farmers as well, and making it as easy as possible for them to sell to institutional clients. And so that's kind of an overview of the whole project. What we are doing now, what we have already done, is that, like I said, in Missouri, where we have a grant from the, I believe, Missouri Foundation for Health to work with New Growth, Columbia Urban Ag Institute, as well as Three Creeks Farm, to build a food hub in Columbia that can then work exactly the same way as the Kansas City Food Hub, and then working with the Jackie Jonah Kirsten Foundation over in St. Louis to be building a food hub over in St. Louis as well. And then on the Kansas side, we've been working with, I see Robert Riley's on the call. He's represents Full Circle Sustainability, and we've been working with him to develop a similar pilot in Topeka where we are essentially how we see development of food hubs can be is that, like Tom was saying, there's a chicken and the egg problem. You need to get the clients attached when you get the farmer before you get the farmers attached, and the farmer, the clients won't go until the farmers are attached, and same thing with the other way. So what we do is not only bring our expertise and our sales know-how to train folks in Topeka, Columbia, St. Louis. Instead, we're actually helping sign clients. For example, Topeka Public School District is signed with Kansas City Food Hub currently, and we've been servicing them with local farm fresh food. And we essentially build a client base for this, pilot food hub in the short term, while we're then training the pilot food hub how to build capacity, know the lingo, know how to get clients, know how to get farmers, know how to do all these things based off of our experience, so that they can get grants or loans or whatever capital stack to then build out their on the ground capacity. And then the best bit is that we divest those client relations and hand them over as a gift almost to that pilot food hub when they're on their legs, so that instead of waiting for years and years and years to get a school district or to get anyone, these community folks can be focused on building their food hub and know that the client base is being built for them at the same time, because we're estimating from our current forecast the Topeka market that we've been able to build will be worth $150,000 of earned revenue by the October of this year. So the year-to-date sales will be $150,000, and that would be a entire annual revenue that we could pass off to Full Circle Sustainability in Topeka when they have their food hub in operation immediately. And so that year one, when they're running a food hub, they'd be worth $150,000. For the food hub, the Kansas City food hub, it took 6 years to hit that number for us to, in our operation. And so we don't have 6 years to wait around and build food hubs piecemeal and piecemeal and piecemeal across the state in an ineffective manner. We need to build them now, and we need to build them well. And so this kind of development model will allow for us to be building clients at the same time we're building that operational capacity, at the same time we're building producer capacity. So we're kind of building the car as we drive it, so that we can actually get to our destination faster. And so we have that going on currently in Topeka. And then we're hopeful to launch a similar program in Wichita and Emporia this fall to build out a strong route into central Kansas. And in service of that work, I was just recently in Wichita for a full day of meetings. And barring anything dramatic changing, we had an incredible meeting with 2 school districts, one more suburban district that is signed on as a client for us this fall, but also Wichita Public, which is the largest school district in the state of Kansas and Missouri. Depending on the enrollment count is somewhere between 42,000 and 50,000 students. And they, again, barring any great change, they are interested in buying and for this fall 4 different whole produce items to be serviced in all of their cafeterias across the Wichita Public School District, making it so that we're actually making local food work for the largest school district in the state. A problem that has not been solved, to my understanding, really ever. And the Kansas City Food Hub was able to do that in about a 30-minute meeting, because we have a deep understanding of what institutional clients need, being able to show off our capacity, being able to have good rapport and good relationships with our current school clients and our current clients of all types, to be able to have them be references. we understand how to get actual local food buying programs off the ground in a very effective and short manner. And so that's kind of what we're doing right now. I wanted to open the floor to hear a little bit more discussion from the all of the people, and thank you again for joining. We're really excited to be kind of launching this. We really see that to make this work the best, we need to make sure to have the full community across the entire state of Kansas involved and invested in improving our food system. And though we've kind of maybe gotten a little ahead of ourselves in some of our work, we really want to seek community input as much as possible to make sure that this intentional network, this constellation, truly services all of our communities as much as possible across this great state. And so thank you again for joining the call. And I'd really love to hear some dialogue. And I will also open chat to see what folks are thinking across the state and how we can, better serve local food, throughout Kansas. And again, this is just the start of those conversations. We, like Tom was saying, hope to have a more formalized working group that can kind of meet more regularly and give insight and conversations with the Kansas City Food Hub and some of the more operational folks to guide this development and operations.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I'm going to drop in an email there. If you're interested in participating in that network, feel free to drop an email to Food Hub at Kansas Rural Center, and we'll be following up with a doodle poll to set an initial meeting that works for most of the people. Thomas, there were a couple of questions in the chat. I will just call out, and then I see Robert has his hand raised. I'll pass it to him after we go through these two in the chat. So the first question was, do people bring their product to a warehouse, or do you pick it up from the farmers?
Yeah, so we do a bit of a mix. We're really hoping to get more to picking up from our farmers because the real idea is that we're trying to minimize the cost to the farmer as much as possible and the environmental cost. So if we have 42 farms and some of them might be doing, I mentioned the farmers market idea that some of our farms are delivering half their load to us and then going to the farmers market with the other half. But we do have farms who fill up their truck and come deliver to us to our warehouse. And that's one more car on the road, one more car for that farmer to fill up with gas, one more car for to cover with insurance. And wouldn't it be great to use our logistics network to better service that? And so right now it's a bit of a mix of farmers dropping off and then farmers we go pick up from our Mennonite and Amish farms for obvious reasons. But again, we're piloting a lot of different changes to our program to make it more efficient and effective. And what we were able to do this past few months was that we have a few Lawrence farmers, Tom being one of them, though I don't know how much you're actively producing right now, but Tom's neighbor, Moon on the Meadow, Jill, was not coming into Kansas City by herself and, didn't have enough, wasn't getting enough sold to the Food Hub to justify driving all the way to Kansas City. And so what we did was that we coordinated, sorry, give me one second. No, you're fine. Shared warehouse folks. We were coordinating with Jill along with some Lawrence-based clients like Just Food and Heartland Community Health to deliver to those locations on the day that we're then picking up from Moon on the Meadow, so that our truck is going full over to Lawrence, and then maybe not coming fully back, fully loaded, but at least coming with something. And so we really see that as we build out more and more logistics and have these statewide opportunities where we have more and more of our Food Hub vehicles across the constellation going from rural areas and into urban areas, we can develop more sophisticated logistics to make it so that we can pick up from these smallholder farmers or other farmers and have it be backhauled almost. I hope that answers your question, Sheila. And then Constance, I see the grocery desert. we actually work right now with Canby's Markets. We're in the same warehouse as them, and we actually provide low cost, really effectively affordable local eggs that then go into all their healthy corner stores. And that same egg is sold to Hy-Vee from the farmer directly, and Hy-Vee charges that egg to be $5.79. And when you can buy them from the Healthy Corner Store initiative with Canby's Markets, we were able to work down our margin based off a few different factors, and Canby's is able to still take a small margin and still have those same high quality eggs that are being sold at $5.79, a mile or two away at Hy-Vee, being sold at $3.99 in all of the Healthy Corner stores, making it far more accessible for local food to be purchased by community members. And so already those things are being seen, that we can make local food more affordable for our grocery deserts. But yeah, I'm aware of the concept that a lot of times rural grocery stores have order minimums with these larger conglomerates like Associated Warehouse Grocers, I think AWG, and Cisco or any of the like. We try to be really intentional with trying to have our order minimums be as low as possible for our rural clients, and be really, again, sophisticated with developing models that make it affordable for us to do it, but also not inaffordable for them to do it. And yeah, I think we could make it work that we could get it to them in a very affordable way. I don't know how to fully fix if that would then take away from their order minimum from a Cisco or something. But I'd be very interested in trying to fix the situation more and more. Yeah, and then Rob, I saw you come off mute.
I'm trying. Okay. Hey, great call. Very excited for this project overall. And some of my thoughts and comments here were before I saw Constance's comment and question there. But as Full Circle and Topeka, we're really excited about this project in a few different ways. But then I also do work with the Central Topeka Grocery Oasis, and one of the big things there with addressing the food desert and the middle of Topeka is this kind of tension between the prices that are needed to produce local food with the affordability issue in a food desert as well. And so I'm just like interested in solving that part of the problem. I'm not saying we're getting into that today. I'm just kind of stating some of the I understand that this, schools and institutions can provide a really nice base to provide operating revenue here. But yeah, I am excited to talk about and try to crack the affordability and food desert and, adjacent to that. And this has been somewhat, a thought for Full Circle or Food Hub, but I'm just realizing, how interconnected all of this is too. But yeah, I think small town grocers, there's just an opportunity to provide them with some of this, like you've just been saying. Um, but also at the Kansas Buyers event that I think K-State did in conjunction, Kansas and Missouri kind of did together there. I heard conversations over and over again that day about just like mid-sized food distribution for like the big guys have opportunities, and then there's some direct to consumer stuff. But once like a local food producer wants to scale and not have to try to provide the Walmarts of the world and maybe the super strict stuff that goes in with that, I just think there's opportunity for distribution there, and maybe even like in time and like a grander vision, like helping people understand what they need to do to be able to start to you know scale that part too. But anywho, I think that part of the equation is really important, and excited to like dive into that. And I guess
And I think you're getting
yeah,
I think you're getting really at an important part of this kind of intentional network creation, is that if we have food hubs that are all connected across the state of Kansas and Missouri, is not only are we then going to be able to have the reach and scope of this kind of middle infrastructure, of this middle kind of broadliner, where we would be able to service the entire state as a kind of a collective, but more importantly, we would then be able to help build that capacity for our farmers by having actual metrics, having actual numbers, because I know exactly how many cucumbers I sold to any individual public school last year. I know what price points they needed. I know how many tomatoes I sold to the, hospitals in Kansas City. I know how many, I can get all of this data and we can um, actually forecast out to our farmers, um, what needs to be grown and be far more effective instead of having our farmers have to try and try and trial all of these things and then have half their product not be sold. We can be far more intentional in that type of market creation and actually share this data because each food hub would be connected and not siloed off because we're intentionally creating them to be networked together.
And I guess just then my actual last question is between the Rural Center, the KC Food Hub, thoughts on like how to actually finance the infrastructure needed to actually start to pull this off, between refrigeration and vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and
think
I see there's
hopefully,
a comment in the chat about, a small refrigerated vehicle, van, truck, trailer. Like, what would someone recommend? So we can address that maybe after financing. Go for it, Thomas.
yeah, I guess I would hope that this is part of this uh, group that I hope we can grab a good large swath of people who are interested in doing this work, whether operationally, connection wise, or funding wise, and bring these stakeholders together and have that conversation. Because I'm not a funding expert. I'm trying to be as much of a logistics expert and as much of a local food expert, but I'm not a funding expert. So that's the point of this formation committee is that we want to invite all of the stakeholders and be open from the beginning and show them why we're doing it, why it needs to be done, why we're doing it in this way, and hopefully have them see what they can offer and see what they can do. And not asking for money or anything, but giving us that insight in how we could engage that type of the community as well. And I that would be really the hope for this. And I know also I was not able to attend. Maybe someone else can come off mute and talk about it. I know there's a wonderful meeting yesterday about the rural health transformation grant money. So maybe there's also possibilities there.
I'll just jump in there and say, like, I think that that's one of the things the Kansas Rural Center is bringing to this discussion, aside from holding space for these meetings, is, we do a lot of grant writing, other sort of farm and food system funding access. Also, our partnership with the Heartland Food Business Coalition. There is an alternative funding group, so exploring other models to help food and farm businesses access capital is something we're actively working on. Um, so yeah, funding that. And then to go to the question about vehicles, if you or cold storage, Sheila, that might best be addressed offline. You could send me an email at that food hub because it really is very situational, and I've seen all of those different things work in different situations. And I've also seen people dive into a refrigerated vehicle when it's like not quite what they needed. So I'd be happy to have that conversation offline. I do also want to raise up, as we're looking to start this network of hubs across the state of Kansas. There is just this an amazing opportunity that Kara beat me to the punch to mention here. The Kansas Farmers Union, along with partners Common Ground, Producers and Growers, and Missouri Farmers Union, and National Cooperative Business Association are working on a project called Homegrown Prosperity to support cooperatives. So you could get some support to start up your cooperative business in your community, partner with the Rural Center and the KC Food Hub, and we could get things going. I don't know if you want to say something, Kara. I saw you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's going to be a really cool event. We're doing it open house style, and we have two panels. One will be at 12:30 and one will be at 5:45. And so Thomas will be on at least one of those panels and hopefully somebody else from the Food Hub. We have some other local co-op experts like Ed Resnichek, if anyone knows him, of the Central Plains Organic Farmers, and a couple of representatives of different types of co-ops like utilities. So we'll have all those people, we'll have farmers union members, and then some experts in cooperative development who can tell you a little more about what we have to offer, which includes education and then tailored support once you're in the phase of starting to organize as a co-op. So you'll be able to learn about what we can offer with this grant, as well as just some information about co-ops to see if that might be the right solution for your community. So I would love to see you all there. I'll also put my email in the comments in case you can't make it but still want to stay in touch.
All right.
Uh,
Well,
I,
thanks everybody.
oh,
You
I
got
was
a
going to say,
closing comment, Thomas?
I was just going to say thank you, folks, for coming on. And, you know, I know everyone has a lunchtime meeting nowadays on Thursday, and thank you for joining ours. I hope that it was a fruitful conversation and that folks are excited to hear more and participate more in this group, and see how we can make local food work for the entire state of Kansas. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And if you want to stay engaged in this conversation, send an email to foodhub@kansasruralcenter.org, and we will follow up with our next meeting date. Have a great day.